Hi, this is Doug Kreitzberg. I'm CEO of SeedPod Cyber, and this is another edition of Click Happens. And as usual, I'm joined with the intrepid Sinclair Morris from sunny Florida, right, Sinclair? And she works with SeedPod as our head of MSP relations. Sinclair, how are you feeling today?
Feeling good. We got really cold here in Florida, so it is still sunny, but chilly.
Chili. Okay. All right. We'll talk about the meaning of chili in a moment here. And have Kyle Saudi, who just woke up because it was a late Eagles football game. A boring one, too, last night. It depends on what you like. But Kyle's our CRO and EVP of underwriting. Kyle, how you doing?
I'm good. This is SeedPod green, not Eagles green, by the way, Doug. So
That's right.
I just want to clarify that.
That's right. That's right. We have a separate color, and right. We'll be happy to one day sponsor the Eagles where they can wear our SeedPod green. But we're not quite there yet. And quite frankly, I think they could play a little bit better for us to even kind of consider that. But in any event, welcome everyone. And we were talking that there's a lot going on in the cyberspace. What are you seeing in the news, Sinclair?
Yeah, I mean, a lot always. There was one story that really kind of drew my attention regarding Middletown, Ohio, and an incident that they had in the actual government that caused water bills to not be accurately tracked.
Wow.
And also went on then to, I think they called it an encryption bomb. So they haven't really said if it's ransomware or not. But I did think that was interesting because oftentimes municipalities, don't have the infrastructure and the cybersecurity resources that corporations do. And so now this has even prompted, because they were down for 2 months. They've just got people estimating water bills. Police can't run background checks. I mean, it affected communications across the government. So, a big deal. Really highlights how important it is for municipalities be giving attention to not only their security, insurance, but also incident response and their backups, because now, it seems they're having to essentially rebuild their network,
Right.
which is crazy.
Right. It is. We do talk a lot, and arguably we should talk more about prevention, right? How do you prevent these things? But Kyle, I'm sure you've seen on in your experience companies that have are on top of the response, and those that struggle there, and is it more on one side or the other? What's been kind of your experience?
Every time I get to talk to a client that went through an event, I just have so much sympathy. It's just terrible. We can all imagine waking up and you can't access your laptop or whatever, and you're already probably stressed out because you had a laundry list of 100 things to do. I spoke with a client today that went through an event that they handled it very well. First off, I always like to remind companies and people, like, the Titanic can sink, everyone's susceptible to this. And it's really kind of the story of, okay, how did you deal with it? This company was able to really trigger their incident response. They didn't even have to end up paying a ransom demand because they were able to use their backups, which worked, which sometimes we see clients go to their backups and they don't work. This is a healthcare entity. They're not going to have to, they have to notify what's called OCR, HIPAA. But it's going to be a good story because, yes, we had a data breach. However, we took care of it. This is what we did to prevent it. This is what we found the issue. We're not going to do it again. Those type of stories are good. But yeah, it's the toughest situations are when you unfortunately see clients that, maybe that incident response plan that isn't there, the backups aren't there, there's other issues. And I unfortunately have seen a business or two go out of business, on the smaller side, which is just the worst. So yeah, it's a common story. Like I said, I have a lot of sympathy there, but
Yeah, yeah, and you do see, this isn't the first municipality that to be hit, and maybe it's because usually these type of stories are newsworthy because it is a municipality, but it's rare not to hear about a municipality being hit over the course of a year. Um, uh, you know the and part of it may be the budget issues, and they don't have the wherewithal to upgrade their systems, or there's just so many different parties that have access to it there. But I'm sure there's a lot of preventive measures. Sinclair, when you're talking to clients, and reviewing their security controls, what are kind of the common things that they seem to be missing?
Funny enough, one of the things that now this Middletown, Ohio is going to start requiring by law, security awareness training for your employees. And especially as we're seeing AI and deepfakes, and I mean, it's just becoming so easy for these threat actors to take advantage of human error. So I see that one missing a lot, probably the most.
Right. The security awareness training is what's missing
Yeah.
there. Yeah, which seems to be something that is easy enough that it can be implemented. That you're not bending the laws of physics to put security awareness training in place. Kyle, what do you hear from businesses or even brokers, in your experience about security awareness training? Is it something that they feel they don't need to do, or is it a cost issue? What do you think it is?
I don't think it's a cost issue. There's a lot of good solutions out there that are completely affordable. I think more importantly, it has to become part of your culture, and that starts at the top.
Right.
And if it's not at the top, then it's just not enforceable. And that includes a CEO like you, Doug, getting tested, fish testing, all of that stuff, right? Because
Sure.
that's sometimes where we see the issue. Yeah, it's concerning nowadays. I would say if you're seeing organizations that don't really have some kind of security training set up, because the story I just told about the client that had the event, but it was a pretty good story afterwards. If you're getting a reach out from an attorney general or OCR or anything like that, and you're saying we didn't even have security awareness training, like it's not great. And it's concerning because that's where you see maybe fines come organizations' way. Because again, that's more of a low hanging fruit. We're not talking about something like, hey, put MDR, protection in, which is a hefty investment and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'll tell you one quick story here. The craziest I've ever heard from a client on this, on the opposite way of having good security training. They had a rule that for phishing testing, if you clicked on a phishing email 4 times within a calendar year, you would actually lose your job. And that was the craziest thing I've ever heard. But they're like, we haven't had someone do it yet. And the thinking is that if you click it once or twice, you're going and getting additional training. And look, I've clicked on it before in my career. Like they're really good and sophisticated. So, it's obviously a company like that's embedded in their culture. And it's probably why the last time I had talked to that company, they didn't have an event. So it definitely helps.
Right. Yeah, and I think perhaps security awareness itself is, I'm sure it is evolving. I spent a lot of time working on it a few years back. It really comes down to how do you really architect design for human behavior, for the behaviors that you want. And I would agree with you. I think it is a cultural thing at first. It does need to start at the top, and it's got to be recognized as something that is important. But then also, coming up with mechanisms that really help to turn it into something more than just a compliance check the box. Where the employees just sitting there trying to click through the course while they're looking at TikTok or something else. there. So, but that's it's a major issue. And then I think, you know, from a system design standpoint, you know, credentials are just, you know, we have to figure out a better way. I think that the password is you know, was a convenient start, but we shouldn't have to rely on those to the extent that we do. It just creates too many errors and too many reasons for people to want to put in their cat's name and their, you know, their date of birth as the so don't try. I don't have a cat, so don't try me, bad guys.
It's ironic that when I started in this industry, like one of the main things was like never write down your password. And of course that makes sense when you're in an office and that, but at home, it's almost more secure for me to write a really long, unique password and then at home write it down. So I may or may not have a booklet of some passwords, which I'm like, all right, the hackers I'm concerned about, I don't think they're flying into Philadelphia and coming into my room to get my password, but it's interesting how that's changed.
That's right. That's right. You know, and in the future, there won't be memoirs anymore. They'll just be published password books. You know, the posthumous passwords of Kyle Saudi over the years.
Nobody's reading that.
There. And well, what else is in the news there, Kyle? Anything from your side?
Yeah, there was one that stuck out to me. I'm a big Warren Buffett fan, and it was actually an article about cyber and Warren Buffett. It was, I think it was entitled "It's Not Me," and so there were some deep fakes. So, in case you don't know what a deep fake is, it's basically you might get on, say, like a Teams call or a Zoom call, and the person that you're thinking you're getting on is there on the other end, and it's actually not them. It's basically an AI creation of that person, and also probably an AI change in the voice to make it sound like it's them. And I guess what happened, I guess Warren Buffett doesn't normally talk after some of the, you know, public company discussions and that. And there were a couple videos uploaded on YouTube of him talking, and it wasn't him. So it got, you know, word got back to him, and they were just putting it out there. I don't know what the context of the conversations were, but the deep fake is always interesting to me because that's been something that's really been emerging over the last couple of years, because deepfake technology has gotten really good, really strong. I was lucky enough maybe a year and a half ago to see a live demonstration where somebody was showing the evolution of the technology, and they had it like on them in the room and the screen up, and they were like, just tell me your favorite actor, and, you know, whoever, Clint Eastwood, and typed in Clint Eastwood, and it started to look like Clint Eastwood on. It was insane. And the last thing I'll say is there's a really scary story from about 18 months ago in Asia, where an individual wired higher up in the company $25 million out from because of a deep fake. And it was basically 3 people from his board called him on like either a Zoom or a Teams call, and they're talking like they would, and they know things, and they are like, we need you right now to send this $25 million out. And it was good enough that the person sent it. So that's kind of where we're going, right? It's, you know, we need.
Where does that leave us with, like, how do you, in a world where we are all very remote and use technology the way that we do, how do you, as deepfakes become increasingly real, like, what's going to be the secondary, or I guess the new primary way of authenticating reality? I mean, I don't know.
It be very personal, right? Like the interesting travel story you were telling me earlier, Sinclair, like that would be a check, right? To say like, wait a sec, tell me that trip that you went on, and then it's got to be something personal like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What was your childhood dog's name? I mean, I have actually, they do that in some cases, but usually just as a forgot your password prompt.
Right. Yeah, that it will become more and more difficult. can't speak to the deep fakes on a video. Like how do you manage that Zoom type situation? But I do know that there will be more and more of a requirement to use either your biometrics, your eye, your fingerprint, or something to authenticate, or having more of a hard key, as opposed to even some of the ways that we use MFA, multi-factor authentication today. That is, unfortunately not enough here. That people can get in between you and your MFA authenticator and the credentials, and kind of grab both there. So, but it's going to be, I think, and it'll be interesting to see from a cyber insurance standpoint if there'll be any changes in the requirements, or how, an organization, a standards organization like NIST, which is a national organization that kind of creates standards for, among other things, kind of computer security controls, how they'll address it going forward.
For all we know, this isn't even you, Doug. This could be some crazy deepfake man
exactly
wanting to take over the podcast.
Exactly.
Possible.
Here, that and am I? Do any of us really know if we're ourselves? I mean, it gets into a very philosophical question there. But the just and I guess along the same lines, I'm just looking at this article. This is out of TechCrunch, that the University of Penn was recently hacked, and it was their alumni department. So all these alumni got this letter basically saying the University of Pennsylvania is a dog blank elitist institution full of woke. We have terrible security practices and completely unmeritocratic. We hired and admit morons because we love legacies, donors, and unqualified affirmative action admits. We love breaking federal laws. All your data will be leaked, by the way, and Supreme Court rulings like whatever. I don't know what it is. Please stop giving us money. So that came out, and apparently the bad guys took data as well. So they probably have a lot of donors and alums now, they haven't figured out exactly how it's happened yet. But we talked about multi-factor authentication. It is enforced, but there are some higher ranking individuals within Penn that are exempted from having to use it. And they also think that there was a social engineering exploit. So basically, like somebody calling a help desk asking to get their password changed there. And so you don't have to be, have a PhD in computer science to really get into and do damage, right? You almost just need to know how humans behave and respond to get, they're just con games.
I didn't get my letter yet, so now I'm nervous. I mean, what shocks me out of all of that is what you mentioned about certain individuals being exempt. I mean, like, are you kidding me? Like,
I see it all the time with business owners. They don't want to have the MFA for themselves.
It's the roadmap. There's the roadmap to get in.
Right. And who are you going to look anyway? That's probably, you're going to go to the top there, because that's where the controls are. It is a shame, and it's and you would think an organization like Penn, institution like Penn, with a lot of smart people in it, there would be smart people that, could convince others that they really should be doing that. But
that's interesting that you said that, because I've been lucky enough to work with higher education institutions, and I think this was told to me over the years, there's a struggle. So whoever you're talking to, whether it's the top risk manager or someone like that, it makes sense. professors have a lot of power, and it's hard to think about that if we sit in a traditional like for-profit business entity, but they have a lot of say and power. And if one of them says they don't want an MFA, and I guess it's a thing where they kind of have to bend to them. But
Yeah.
again, what you're putting at risk is scary.
Right. And I'm sure it's the same thing in the healthcare profession where, or large law firms where, I'm I got the name on the door, as they say, so I'll make the rules. It is kind of a artifact of a different age, or maybe it's the same age, but it doesn't really kind of help the organization or themselves to follow through on that. Laws of physics still apply. There's still gravity, whether you have the name on the door or not, and as well as bad guys will find the low hanging fruit and take advantage of it there with regards to it. I think the other item, and I'll just talk a little bit. I happened to be briefly at IT Nation last week. And IT Nation, for those of you who don't know, is a big conference of managed service providers, MSPs. It's hosted by ConnectWise, which is a large provider of solutions to managed service providers. Probably one of the largest or second largest conference annually. There's a growing sense, I think, of, I wouldn't say unease as much as that changes in the wind for managed service providers. And it's relative to AI. So, and it's probably not anything that any other industry is probably facing right now. But I just got a sense that, these managed service providers, maybe it's because they deal with technology, and of course AI is grounded there. But they're trying to figure out, what they should do and how they should respond here. From your perspectives, regardless of, you could talk specifically to the MSPs, and I'll be curious, Sinclair, if you're hearing anything in your conversations, but how should businesses kind of start thinking about AI within their company? Is it something they should start thinking about? Should they wait until others, have kind of, as someone used to say, that where others have learned to, where AI is shaved on somebody else's face before they've tried it themselves? Sinclair, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, it's probably not unlike what is going through, many business owners' heads as we look and anticipate what AI is going to bring with it. Lots of new tools to increase productivity, but also, threat actors are using AI too to, make their attacks more sophisticated. So I think it's definitely a race. I haven't heard anything in my conversations with MSPs to date. I'm not entirely sure what their fears are. They haven't expressed it, but I'm sure time will tell as AI continues to automate things that might shrink margins. I mean, that's the first thing that, I think of. We've got chat bots and access to easy answers. That's kind of the first place that my mind goes, but I'm not an MSP. So.
Right. Yep. Kyle, what are your thoughts?
Somebody told me last week, and I thought it was an interesting quote. It was like, there's two types of companies on the go forward: those who implement AI and understand it into their business, and the rest are just waiting to get acquired by those companies. So yeah, I think that's the way to go. But again, I think of a story of just like 2 weeks ago where I was working with Maddie on, we were building like a new website, and we were using Claude AI, and we still took like an hour on there, and Maddie took more time than that because it was doing all the coding to build the website. And I was reflecting on, in the past, what would that look like? We probably work without some outsourced company. probably take a couple weeks, and here we are doing it live. But it's not like you can just tell this AI to like do this and it's exactly how you want. You need people and experts and that to be like, okay, this is a great start. It's phase one, and work towards that. And I think you could probably take that concept and put it across anything else. I do find it, it's interesting when I think of like managed service providers, AI, and cyber. Everything I keep reading about is that more and more cyber attacks are using sophisticated AI. So the only way to fight that is with AI as well. Now, again, I'm not an IT expert, so I don't know what that looks like. But yes, you have to bring AI in to combat the cyber attacks, and then there's efficiencies there. And then there's the separate conversation around people's roles and titles, which you never want to see anybody lose a job. But I think there's evolution of experience, and maybe coders that maybe if that work can be done by AI, then the coders are the ones overseeing it because they know what it's doing and what it's not doing and things like that. So I think there's ability for growth and adoption.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's the, you have the security side and you have the business side, and then you do have kind of a personal side to it as well in any number of ways, whether it's the job loss component or changing the job or just how some are using AI as their therapist, as their friend, if you want to put it out there, and what are the implications of that? From my standpoint, from the business standpoint, this is just a fantastic time to be in business, and the capabilities that a small business has now is dramatically different than it was just a few years ago. Now, that doesn't mean that you can just plug in Claude and walk away and just wait for the cash to start coming in to the mailbox, if that ever happened. I don't think that happens anymore. But it is you still have to be smart enough to know what it needs to do. But it can kind of extend you beyond where you from a resource standpoint you were constrained before. And I also think it kind of changes. Resources have historically been asymmetric. In other words, those that had it, controlled the means of production, as they say. And now that's not as necessarily the case as it was before. So it's going to shake things up. So it's naturally to be concerned. I think from an MSP perspective, there will be a lot of changes coming down. I don't think it will happen overnight. I think there will be more opportunities for MSPs to be solution providers and really help businesses in a bigger way. Help them change and adapt to this new environment there. But every business is going through it. The large consulting firms are going through it. As law firms are going through it. Every business is here. But with that, I think we've taken up enough of all your time. We really appreciate you joining us, and certainly Sinclair, Kyle, thank you as always for your insights and certainly what you do. When for SeedPod and our customers, when you're not sitting on this interview with someone who could be Doug Kreitzberg or not, we don't know here. So with that, take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Talk to
you.
you later. Bye-bye.